Thank you. Please be seated. Prefect joke of the day is, what do you get when you cross a hula hoop and a boxer? A Hawaiian punch.
Even I get that one. Thank you, Victoria. Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin with the Ripley's House hymn, hymn number 8, I Hear Thy Welcome Voice. Please stand. Thank you. Please be seated. So a special welcome to the Tacky tourists this morning. Even if we don't travel, the world has become a multicultural place, hasn't it? I mean, you can eat food from all over the world. You can listen to music from all over the world. You can watch films from all over the world. And, generally this is a good thing because it allows us to try and understand one another as cultures. But, just because we are developing this understanding, it doesn't mean that we have to see as good or approve of everything in every culture. I mean, even in our own culture, there are unhealthy aspects. And certain cultures we kind of think of as having lots of unhealthy aspects. I mean, you think of a place like North Korea, but we don't really know very much about it. None of us have ever been there. I mean, has anybody ever been to North Korea? Oh, Freddie, you've been there. Would you like to come and tell us about your trip to North Korea? Okay, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Freddie. My grandpa was one of the first soldiers of Chinese infantry regiment that entered North Korea during the Korean War, and he was a medic at that time. I spent most of my childhood with my grandfather. Even though we spent a ton of time together, my grandfather seldomly talked about the war. He mentioned it many times to my mother. He wanted to go back to North Korea and revisit the old battlefield. That never happened. North Korea is always a sensitive, aggressive, and a confrontational country. It is also known by its strict rules and nukes. So I decided to go on a trip to North Korea for my grandfather. The trip to North Korea was memorable. Of course, you are restricted, but that is to be expected. My mother and I traveled by train because the main North Korea airline basically modified the old Soviet bomber into silver plane. So we really don't want to risk that. We spent 5 hours on the train, and all we saw is farm field and some vehicles, mainly Mercedes. And then I arrived in capital Pyongyang. I didn't see Mr. Kim, by the way. Pyongyang station was not at all what I expected. The station was relatively modern looking and clean. I was a bit nervous going through the passport control, but that turns out to be pretty uneventful, sorry. They let you keep your phone with you, and you can take as many pictures as you want, bearing the soldiers. The first thing you notice as soon as you pull up from the train station is the propaganda. It's everywhere. Every street intersections, every building, every subway station, and every subway car proudly display portraits of the national leaders, the Kim's family. We spent our first dinner in their downtown, and it looks just like downtown Vancouver. No, I'm not kidding. Buildings were relatively new and modern, but they're not empty inside. Every meal we had in North Korea was extremely delicious, and they always serve with local beverage. I lived in Yangkak-do International Hotel, which is the largest operating hotel and second tallest building in North Korea. It has 47 floors and a slowly revolving restaurant on the top, and a massive casino on the bottom floor. My room was on 46th floor. Living in Pyongyang, it's like living in the capital in the Hunger Game. Only the elite are allowed in. Out of the whole country, the propaganda here is the loudest. If you're living in Pyongyang, you're giving free housing in high-rise apartments in return for loyalty and service to your country. You're allowed to go to the grocery stores that are stocked with their own Nutella, Oreos, Absolute vodka, and jelly shoes. You get to ride on Soviet subways, basically free as a communist country, as well as buses and tram cars. They do have taxis, but they're fairly expensive. You get to use smartphones, like iPhones. They also have Wi-Fi, but it is more like a internal Wi-Fi. You even get to go to the amusement park and water parks on the weekend, and that is also for free. Pyongyang was much more developed, and I can't imagine that, but the beauty quickly faded away as you look closer, as the building materials were a bit raw. There are too many things I would like to talk about. However, we're running out of time. As the end of my speech, I would like to share a few thoughts. The North Koreans were indeed brainwashed by their government. However, more likely, we're all modified into propaganda machine. You always have a filter in your eyes, and that came from your knowledge. We all represent what we believe in. In North Korea, the government has a large amount of control over its citizens. It made me a question: how much do outside influence have control over my thoughts? Are my thoughts mine? Or are they a product of my environment? During my travels, I conclude that we are a mixture of our own thoughts and our influence. To avoid being a cog in the propaganda machine, we should always have a filter in our eyes. We should always question what we are told to see, if it fits our knowledge and experience we are gathered over the years. We form our beliefs, and our beliefs from us. Because of it, we should be deliberate and careful with our beliefs. Overall, my trip to North Korea was very good. It cost $200 for 4 days. In wintertime, you can also go to the ski resort. I was able to connect with my part of history, and I was able to gain exposure to new perspective. Mostly, I left North Korea feeling grateful, and I'm the captain of my own thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. That was great on so many levels. Thank you for your description of North Korea and for your sharing your reflections on it. It's so important to travel, isn't it? Because the world is getting to be a smaller place day by day, and the more, as I say, the more I think we understand one another, ultimately the safer we're going to be in the world. And so that kind of intercultural understanding is more and more important. And I just want to thank Freddie for sharing that. When I heard he'd been to North Korea, I thought it would be really important to hear a bit of his story. So thank you. So just shifting gears completely, I just want to say that, there's been a number of students this year who have really taken on big projects. Lena took on the dance-a-thon for the Intercultural Society recently, just on her own, and I'm just particularly impressed and so happy when I see students really take on a project like this. And so I'm going to invite Megan to come forward because she has kind of done the same thing with the Relay for Life. So she's going to come up and tell you about it now.
Hello, students and staff. June 10th, we will be hosting a Relay for Life. Relay for Life is a walk for cancer. It might surprise some of you to think of a relay as a walk. You might also be surprised to know that this walk we are hosting will be 24 hours long. Yes, 24 hours. The majority of other schools and cities that do this relay only do it for 6 to 12 hours. Prince George, where I am from, is the only 24-hour relay in Canada. No other schools have stepped up to the challenge of conquering the 24 hours of walking. After debating whether 12 hours or 24 hours would work best for our school, I thought, why not 24? Why don't we be the school to step up for this cause completely, considering Shawnigan steps up regularly for many other important causes? Now I know what you all are thinking. 24 hours of walking, that sounds terrible. However, as some of you already know, you are able to participate in groups. Within your houses, you and your friends can make groups of however many you want and schedule shifts so that everyone is walking within the 24. Within your houses, you will also get the chance to donate, which you can charge to your parents' account. The houses will compete who can get the most donations. There is a $25 participation fee required by each person, but this money can go towards your house's total contribution. The money raised goes straight to the Cancer Foundation, and you will also get a shirt to wear proudly on the day of this event. The competition between houses will be a different version of Interhouse. Instead of gaining house points, Mr. Robertson has offered to buy the house that has the most donations, Dairy Queen. You guys are probably still dreading the 24 hours, but trust me, it's going to be worth it. During this event, the prefects are also hosting a carnival with food trucks and fun events. During the night, we will be having fun games going on for the full 24, different games, stations, events, and music, of course. It will be a party with a purpose. Now on to the more serious aspect of this. I want to talk to you about why we are doing this relay in the first place. Well, first, put your hand up if you were ever affected by cancer or had a family member or friend who was affected. Look around. Almost everyone has been affected by cancer somehow in their life. The people that are affected by cancer are just as important as the patients that are diagnosed. Someone you love is getting treatment to save their life, and you are there with them every step of the way. With this relay, we will all be there for each other every step of the way. We will walk to show strength and power, and you will without a doubt get tired, but that doesn't mean you stop walking. Just like a cancer patient, you can't stop fighting. My grandpa is a fighter. He has never stopped fighting. In 1999, he was diagnosed with melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer. He had a large mole surgically removed from his neck. And then in 2010, he was diagnosed with Merkel Merkel cell carcinoma, an extremely rare cancer. It had spread to his lymph nodes. He was treated with surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. And against all odds, my papa ended that treatment cancer-free. Last Christmas, he was short of breath and not feeling right. He went to multiple doctor's appointments, and then in March, they drained 2 liters of fluid from his left lung. This was then repeated 2 more times. April 19th, 2016, he flew to Kelowna for pleural surgery to stop the fluid from accumulating in his lungs. This surgery was successful. In May of 2016, my papa was officially diagnosed with mesothelioma, a rare form of cancer which grows on the lining of your lung. There is no cure for this cancer. When he started his own business, he was in contact with a material called asbestos. Being in contact with that material is the only reason you would get this kind of cancer. He had chemotherapy to treat this, and after a month or so of that, he was feeling great. But just recently, he started to feel more pain. He had a CT scan that confirmed the cancer has started growing again and has formed tumors in his lungs. He starts chemo again this Thursday, and we are hoping the tumors will shrink and he can get some pain relief. He is a fighter, and so was my grandma. My grandma passed away this last Friday. Her story is a little bit different. She was slowly starting to lose ability to walk, and one day she just couldn't. She had lung cancer and was unaware of it. She didn't want to go to the doctor, but when she finally did, the cancer had progressed to her brain. My family and I went to visit her over March break. She was not how I remembered her at all. She recognized us most of the time, but I remember her calling me someone else and said I lived across the street. It was really hard to be there. All I was thinking about was how she was when I last saw her. I was 8 years old. My grandpa took me to her trailer, and we painted our nails and talked about Justin Bieber. She had a huge celebrity crush on him. All I wanted was to see that side of my grandma again. A few days later, we had to say goodbye. I told her I would see her again. When my family left the room, I sat there and I talked to her while she was sleeping, telling her to keep fighting, and she tried. And last week, my dad flew out for Mother's Day, and he arrived Thursday night, and Friday morning, he went to see her in the hospital. He was telling her about this relay. She had a tear run down her face, and that's how my dad knew she understood what he was talking about. Later on that morning, she stopped breathing, and that was it. She had died 2 months after she found out she had cancer. It can happen so fast if you don't get treated, and that's what we are doing this relay for. We are walking so that people don't have to go through what my grandma did. We are walking, and we are helping these cancer patients fight to save their lives, so cancer can be beat. So yes, this event will be fun and full of games and music, and it will be a party, but like I said before, it's a party with a purpose. So when you are thinking whether or not to pay $25 to donate to the Cancer Foundation, just do it. I promise you, you will not regret it. When the relay is closing and you are on your final lap, you will get this amazing sense of accomplishment and pride that will rush through your whole body. Plus, you get a cool t-shirt. So join me and many others across Canada and walk for a cure. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. So there's a lot of organizing, I know, around this event, but I think you just did the hardest thing, right? This was now that this is over, the rest will be easy. So, but thank you for that. Just very moving and inspiring for all of us. Thank you. You know, it used to be when I was a kid, we didn't say cancer, right? You didn't say the word. It was really, it was something people wouldn't talk about, and I think it was because it was so scary and there was no cure. And so just the fact that we've come so far in our awareness and understanding and ability to talk about cancer is really important to the kind of the progress towards finding cures and better treatments. So thank you for all your work on this, Megan. Just a few words from me. I don't know if you've heard of this expression, leaving behavior. Leaving behavior is when you start to exhibit weird kind of symptoms when you're about to leave somewhere, and you know, you start saying, "Oh, I'm done. You know, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm through." You know, and I think sometimes leaving behavior is the behavior we exhibit because we kind of have mixed feelings. We don't want to leave, or we're not comfortable with leaving. And so we kind of end before we end. And I just want to say that's kind of the opposite of what we want to do here, right? We talk about the opposite of that as finishing well. And what I want to say this morning, I was thinking about this week, is that the problem with leaving behavior is you kind of pull back from things prematurely and you miss so much. And what I was thinking of this week is that some of the best conversations I've had with people, some of the best kind of experiences that I've had and that I've seen students have is in the last few days of the year. I was thinking I've been here, this will be when 2017 will be the 10th class that I see graduate from here. And I've seen over and over, sometimes it's the very last couple of days that are the best days of the year. So please don't end before you end, Don't have leaving behavior. Just stay engaged. There are some really, really wonderful things to come over the next 5 weeks or so, and perhaps some of the best experiences of the year, I think especially for the grade 12s. So hang in there, finish well, stay engaged, and anticipate some really wonderful things in the days ahead. And we're going to finish with the school hymn. A Voice in the Wilderness, hymn number 1. Please stand. Thank you all. Thank you, Megan and Freddie. Have a great day, everybody.
Sit down, please. That was a pretty average rendition of the school hymn, but I'm not going to do what you might expect me to do, which is to ask you to sing it again. I'm not going to do that, because if you're not feeling it, then I can't put it into you. So you have to be feeling it to want to do that. Particularly pleased always particularly pleased when I see students up here. So I want to thank Freddie this morning. I want to thank Megan. You both did extremely well. Thank you for doing that. Students often toy with the idea of garnering the courage to stand up here, and then a lot of you, I know from conversations, say, oh my, I could never do that. How could you ever do that? Well, and then some students that I have conversations with wonder how someone like me feels or seems so comfortable standing talking to large groups of people. And I can tell you very simply how that is. So when I was 15, prior to 15, hard to believe, I know, hard to believe. Talk about retro. I was very shy, and I would blush at the first situation that came up. Then some teacher whom I knew well and came to know extremely well and was an inspirational figure for me in my life, like many of the teachers that you're fortunate, teachers, coaches, mentors that you're fortunate to encounter, persuaded me that I had to go on stage, to act. And I said, you must be kidding. There's no chance of that. I'm way too shy for that. But he absolutely demanded that I give it a go. Not only on stage, in the lead role on stage. Not only in the lead role on stage, but in the lead role speaking French on stage, which I'd only been studying for 3 years. So, wow. Okay, we'll give this a go. Best thing I ever did. Absolutely. I'm lining it up with all sorts of wonderful experiences. But that was the most significant moment in character development and confidence development for me. And it was the start of a long run of being on the stage, which is pretty special for those out there who've had that feeling and understand it. So why am I telling you this right now? I'm telling you this right now because I think in the shuffle of busyness and pressure, we sometimes forget the value of some of the electives that are there, the curricular fine arts that are there as you're signing up. You feel all this pressure. I have to have AP this, AP that. I have to this credit, that credit. I have to keep all these options open. I need spares because I have to breathe somewhere in the busyness of Shawnigan. And all of that's true, but all that I'm seeing is some of you, particularly in the senior years, just take a little bit of a step back, have a few discussions, and have a little bit of a think about the well-roundedness that will actually help your overall confidence. Because a school experience is not just about qualifying you for a certain course or a certain degree or a certain diploma or one thing. It's about, this school experience is about qualifying you as a person that is going to be a great citizen, a leader in society, a well-rounded individual who has experience and appreciation of all these different aspects of life. That's the essential philosophy of the school, as you know. That's why we do a whole range of fine arts, leadership, sports, academics, and try and do the whole package. You know, it can be difficult and it can be challenging to fit it all in. But just be clear. I'm asking you to, the seniors in particular, as you sign up for your courses, even if you've signed up already, you can revisit that and think about the value of some of these fine arts electives. Theatre performance, and many others, okay? So think about the value of those and revisit, because I can tell you, I've watched students over the years benefit immensely in much the same way as I benefited all those years ago. Thank you.